Good evening, all. I welcome you all on behalf of the Unique Academy in today's webinar on Decoding Prelims. Dear friends, before we start today, let me give you a brief idea about the activities which we have been conducting this week, particularly the series of webinar. So, dear friends, last Sunday, Honorable Tukaram Jadhav sir conducted a webinar on UPSC, particularly opportunities and challenges. And thereafter, we have planned few webinars on different aspects of preparation for UPSC. Today's webinar is in the series, the second last webinar, wherein we are going to discuss about different aspects of prelims, being more particular, and how to plan and how to execute the plan as well. And then tomorrow in the evening, there will be one more webinar conducted again by Honorable Tukaram Jadhav sir, and the webinar will be specifically focusing on how should be your plan in general for 2022 attempt. So dear friends, without wasting time, let me share the slides and then we will discuss in detail about how the challenge particularly of prelims and how one can actually decode the prelims. So just allow me to share the slides. Yes, so friends, we are going to talk about the webinar on prelims, UPSC prelims, and how to decode the prelims. Dear friends, it is one of the most challenging step so far as UPSC civil service exam is concerned. Challenging in the sense that it has a lot of students actually appear in prelims, and then it becomes that way very competitive to crack. And not just this, but the scope of the syllabus of UPSC prelims plus the nature of exam and then type of questions that UPSC actually throws across are really very challenging, and then that becomes really very difficult for some students, those who have been preparing for quite a long time, and some of them those who have recently started their preparation. So dear friends, today we will be focusing on this particular aspect, what prelims actually is all about, what is its syllabus, how one can plan for prelims, particularly for 2021 attempt, that is next year's attempt. And we will also allot some time in today's webinar, how can one plan for 2022 prelims, right? And not just this, dear friends, I will be also discussing in brief, though not very detailed, but in brief, some psychological aspects which generally all these aspirants, while preparing for not just prelims but for mains and interview, generally go through. So we will be focusing on those aspects at the end as well. So dear friends, let's start with the first part of today's webinar, and that is dealing with the syllabus for prelims. Let's get acquainted with what are the points do we have for UPSC prelims as a syllabus. So I hope you all must be knowing about the fact that UPSC prelim is actually divided into two parts. There are two papers. Paper 1, which deals with general studies subjects, and paper 2 that deals with the CSAT aspect. So far as paper 1 is concerned, you can see that on your slide that there are these topics like history of India and Indian national movement, then Indian and world geography, then polity and governance, economy and social development, environmental ecology, biodiversity, climate change, general science, current events of national and international importance. So let me in brief touch all these points. In very brief, I won't be spending a lot of time today on discussing in depth the scope of the syllabus. However, I will certainly try and give you a fair idea about the same. So dear friends, if we see the first point here, that is history of India and Indian national movement, it basically covers complete history from ancient times to modern times, right? So right from the Neolithic and Chalcolithic age, or being more particular, which is quite well known, that is Harappan civilization, right, or Indus Valley civilization. Right from that time till date, the complete history which covers ancient, medieval, and modern Indian history. Now, when it comes to history of India, particularly the ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history, it has been seen in last few years that UPSC is trying to focus more on art and architecture and cultural developments which have taken place during this time. So one can very easily get to know, if you go through the previous year's question paper, you'll get to know that the focus of questions is basically on the cultural and civilizational developments. And you will find, to a certain extent, let me make it very clear, to a certain extent, they try and avoid, UPSC tries and avoid to ask questions which are of political nature, particularly from ancient and medieval Indian history. It's not the case that they won't ever ask such questions. They may switch to those questions as well. However, in general, the questions which are coming from ancient and medieval Indian history are more or less based on Indian culture and other aspects, or you can say soft aspects of development into a development of a civilization. And now when we come to the next part, that is modern Indian history, more or less the focus of UPSC, particularly in prelims, is on India's freedom struggle and different events, different personalities, which were involved in India's freedom struggle. So you can see the Indian national movement, the point here, Indian national movement precisely talks about the national movement that starts, you can say, after establishment of Congress. So we can consider that 1885 onwards till 1947, all the events which actually are covered under this particular topic. So this first point, so far as prelims and its weightage is concerned, carries somewhere around 15 to 20 questions, right? So this is specifically the scope of Indian history and Indian national movement. As I have already said you, I'll be as brief as possible. I won't be going into details of the syllabus at this moment. We will be, we will be going to discuss these things in detail in lectures. So next important point or subject in the syllabus is India and world geography. So now, so far as geography is concerned, again, the weightage of this particular point is also somewhere around 10 to 15 bits, and sometimes it, it fluctuates between 10 to 25. It depends on, that particular year and then the approach that UPSC is willing to carry. So, dear friends, here, so far as geography is concerned, Indian geography and world geography covers almost around 15 questions. So far as Indian geography is concerned, you will get to know that Indian geography and the point here, that is environment and ecology, most of the time can be prepared together, and these 2 points actually cover more than 30 marks, or more than 30 bits, or more than 30 questions in prelims. So while you are preparing for Indian geography, which covers human geography, which covers, physical geography, which also covers the economic geography, right? And you have to also be ready with map reading and different sites and their locations, because UPSC is fond of asking such questions, right? So Indian geography and world geography covers again the vast part of the syllabus of UPSC prelims. Next is Indian polity and governance. Here again, if you see the syllabus, if you go back to the previous year's question paper, you will get to know that there are specific topics on which UPSC you will find is asking questions, particularly based on fundamental rights. At times, some of the questions are based on federalism, some of the questions are based on different constitutional setups and their powers and privileges and functions and etc. So while preparing for this particular point, that is Indian polity and governance, you have to look for such specific points which are very well mentioned in the syllabus of UPSC. The next part that we need to focus on is economic and social development. I want to make it very clear to you all, dear friends, that this subject here, or the topic here under syllabus, expects you to be generalistic so far as questions coming from economy are concerned. And let me very categorically put it that it is economy and not economics to say. So you may find some questions which have been asked in recent years are quite difficult, and you may find it really very difficult and really very challenging to answer those questions on bare understanding of basic concepts. But I'm quite sure that if you actually work on basic concepts, particularly through NCRTs for this particular topic, that is economic development, you will be certainly able to, get those questions correct, or at least you will be able to deal with those questions. So economic development need not necessarily be equated or need not necessarily be seen as economics and then study of economics as a subject. Here what we need to do is to be generalistic, to keep track of recent economic developments, as well as to be thorough with some of the basic concepts which you can certainly read through NCERT's till 12th standard. So economic and social development includes all economic developments which are going on in national life, plus some of the social developments which are going on in national life, which includes different schemes for different schemes run by the government, different schemes inaugurated by the government, and their almost all details. And so you may get, or you may come across questions on those points. Next important topic that we have as a part of syllabus is environment and ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. Now, dear friends, if you go through the syllabus of UPSC, you will find that there is one extra line added here, and it says that which in this case it says that it does not require any subject specialization. So what is an intention of UPSC while it prescribes a syllabus of this sort? Basically the UPSC expects you to focus on general matters of environment and ecology and biodiversity, and some general issues of climate change, which you can actually prepare through current affairs as well as going through some of the basic books, right? So you need not to actually study any reference book as such, so far as environment, ecology, and biodiversity or climate change issues are concerned. Yeah, it is true that so far as the scope of this subject is concerned, it is quite vast, and the weightage in prelims is also quite big. I mean to say that probably around you can see, if you go through previous year's question paper, you'll be very easily able to judge that it carries around 25 to 30 questions, out of 100 questions, so far as environment, ecology, and biodiversity topics are concerned. So yes, it is true that we need to dedicate a little bit more time so far as preparation of this topic is concerned. Next important aspect is, or next point in the syllabus is general science. Now, again, one needs to be very clear about what do you mean by science and general science. So again, here you need not to be studying any reference books so far as science and scientific knowledge is concerned, but the questions asked by UPSC more or less deal with general science or application oriented science, which influences our day-to-day life. So that is something which you have to prepare here so far as general science is concerned. Next important aspect, which I will be linking with all the other points in the syllabus, is current events of national and international importance. Now, when it comes to current events, there are several questions that generally strike our mind, like from which date actually we should start preparing. There is a general, or there is, you can say, a common understanding that probably a year is enough. Like, so if you are going to attempt in 2021, June 2021, probably you will be preparing your current affairs from June 2020 onwards, right? However, what do you mean by, how do you actually interpret word current? Current is nothing but something that is contemporary. So you may not necessarily restrict, or may not necessarily get questions only from that span of 1 year. You may get questions, which are kind of spread for around 2.5 years time span. But yes, it is true that it is really difficult to prepare current affairs of such vast time span. So I don't expect, or in fact, nobody would advise you to do that. It is true that we need to focus on 1 year time span. However, it would be really better if you stretch it a little bit more and make it 1.5 years or so, right? Which will, give you a wide coverage of different issues during that 1.5 years or 2 years. So that it would be better if you keep preparing current affairs at least of 1.5 years or maybe 2 years before you are attempting your prelims. Now, the important issue here is this: is it that this topic is absolutely separate topic and do you need to prepare it separately? Yeah, to a certain extent, yes, that is true. But however, but along with that, you have to also ensure that these current affairs or current events are actually linked with all these topics which are there in the syllabus. So environment, ecology, biodiversity, you have to link current with this. You have to link current with science. You have to link with economy, with polity, and with geography. And to a certain extent, of course, with history as well, though history won't change as such. Its interpretation keeps changing. However, you have to see the different debates and different research that is going on in current affair, in current, so far as history as a subject is concerned. Now, this in brief is idea about what this syllabus is all about. I know this is certainly not enough so far as the depth of syllabus is concerned, but today's aim is not to discuss syllabus at length, at depth, but to simply let you know with these different topics. I want you all to also focus on this last line of the slide, which says that all points in prelims are also relevant for mains. Now, friends, when you go back, when you see the UPSC syllabus, particularly prescribed for mains, you'll get to know that these topics, have been embedded in UPSC mains GS syllabus. So it is in a way a very good thing for you that same books, same topics, same material which you are reading for prelims, you can use the same thing for mains. So there has to be a kind of integration of prelims and mains. If you have a long-term plan, if you being more particular, those who are aiming at 2022 attempt, they can think of integrating their prelims along with mains. That would be really beneficial. So I would be speaking a little bit more in detail about this particular last point in coming slides. So dear friends, let's move to the next paper, and that is paper 2, which again I will be very brief about, and I'll just let you know the syllabus, and maybe at the end we will be having a separate slide for how to prepare for paper 2nd. So dear friends, this paper 2nd, which is quite commonly known as, in common parlance, it is called a CSAT, so Civil Service Aptitude Test, right? So we have comprehension here, English language comprehension or comprehension in general, then interpersonal skills, including communication skills, logical reasoning and analytical ability, decision making and problem solving, general mental ability, basic numeracy, data interpretation, and English language comprehension skills. The most important aspect or most important point that one needs to keep in mind while preparing for UPSC prelims is paper 2nd is of qualifying nature, right? So for paper 2nd, what you need to ensure is you get 1/3 of total marks allotted to this particular paper. This, is an important thing to remember. The reason being, there are two types of aspirants: those who take this particular paper granted, and so they don't actually bother about preparation, and it has been seen that they actually don't clear paper 2nd, and so they lose the attempt. And there is one more group of students. In general, you'll find that those who have kind of fear about paper 2nd, because it deals with though minimum bare skills of mathematics, but yes, of course, the moment somebody gets to know that there are some calculations to be done, there are something dealing with the English language comprehension or maybe comprehension, they find it little difficult to actually go and prepare for this. So the second group of people, they out of fear, while appearing for this for paper 2nd, you'll find that they commit several mistakes, and then they lose the attempt. So we will be discussing on those aspects at the end of today's webinar. But please remember that paper 2nd here of prelims is of qualifying nature. That means you have to score 1/3 marks in paper 2nd, right? So as to qualify for mains. But then 1/3 in paper 2nd, minimum 1/3 in paper 2nd, and then the said scoring marks in paper 1st. Right. So this is in brief about syllabus of paper 2nd and paper 1. Before we move ahead, let me also tell you that this exam, particularly the prelims, is of objective nature, and this objectiveness of prelims, demands certain qualities, demands certain way of preparation from you. Now, what for objective exams are actually conducted? You all must be knowing, or some of you must be knowing, that the marks obtained by you in prelims won't be considered for your mains, or for that matter your merit, right? This is nothing but a kind of filter, right? The filter which will filter only those students who qualify, right? So this whole process of prelims is of a qualifying nature. Are you getting it? And that's the precise reason why this exam has been kept of objective nature. Let's go a little bit in detail of it and try and understand what do you mean by objective nature, and why this objective nature of exam seems really very important. So what are the expectations when it comes to any objective exam for that matter? So what they test, basically they will be testing your knowledge, one. Second, ability to link different concepts. It is very important, friends, to not just read and understand the concepts, but you have to have the skill set to apply those concepts in day-to-day life, to apply and think over those concepts every now and then when you are coming across any question, right? So application of conceptual understanding, ability to link different concepts with each other, right? And also to test the knowledge. So basically the objective exam expects you first to be very thorough with knowledge, very thorough with your conceptual understanding. Second, you have to have a practice, to apply those concepts in given circumstance, in given situation. And situation is nothing but one question which you come across in prelims, right? So while solving that question, how do you apply your mind, how do you apply your brain, how do you apply your logic, that is precisely tested here in an objective exam. And this particular thing is not just applicable for UPSC prelims, but whichever prelims, whichever objective exam you actually are appearing for, this particular things applies to all those exams, right? Whether we are talking about banking exams, whether we are talking about state pieces, whether we are talking about UPSC or any sort of exam. Objectiveness basically is to test your ability to apply your knowledge in given set of in given set time, and simultaneously to see to it that how you deal with the given situation. When I'm saying situation, I'm here actually trying to point out towards one particular question, right, which you are going to come across in exam, right? The next important aspect of this particular or next important point in the nature of examination, particularly of prelims, is its negative marking, right? Now it is quite common, everybody knows about it, and there is nothing to be fearful about it at the first place. And it is also not negative as such. It is not that negative as we generally see it, right? But it is, you need not to be fearful about the same, right? Why am I saying that it is not that negative? See, the negative marking that is that is prescribed or that is mentioned in UPSC's prelims is 1/3 negative marking. So going by the rule of probability, you can see that 1/3 actually does not take away a lot of marks from you, but it only sees or only ensures that those questions which you are absolutely correct about, which you have worked on very well, you will certainly get the marks for the same. Where you commit slightest mistakes, right, your marks will be deducted in the form of negative marking. And most importantly, this particular thing helps the serious candidates, sincere candidates, to ensure that they get through the prelims, right? And those who are having a casual attitude, most of the time you'll find that they don't make through this filter of negative marking. But yes, that's not all. It requires a very precise preparation, strategy while you are attempting for an exam which carries a negative marking, right? So needs perfection in preparation and application of concepts. And this perfection can be attained only through practice, right? So perfection in your preparation as well as application of concepts is a demand of this exam. And keeping in mind that it carries negative marking, it becomes really very essential feature of your preparation, right? So dear friends, this was about nature of examination. We are already done with the syllabus, which I have just given you a brief overview about. Now we will move to the next main topic of today's webinar, and that is strategy for prelims. How can one plan, right? Then how can one plan one's own revisions? Then what is the utility of previous year's question papers, which we will be discussing in detail. We will be also discussing about the importance of test series, and at the end we will be talking about the psychological aspects, different situations, different ups and downs which you generally face while you are preparing for prelims. This applies also for mains. However, in prelims it is a bit more intense, right? So we will be discussing those parts as well. So let's move to the first point, that is planning of prelims. How can one plan the same? Yeah, so here we have the next slide. And let me, as I have already mentioned it at the outset, let me again tell you that we will be discussing the planning from two point of view, or maybe from two perspectives. Uh, one for those who are planning for 2021 prelims, and second, those who are planning for 2022 prelims. I mean to say, those who will be giving their first attempt, maybe second, maybe third attempt in next year, right? And those who will be planning, or those who are giving their first, second, whatever attempt in next year. So first we will be dealing with the plan for those who will be appearing in next year prelims, right? So what can be possible plan for prelims 2021? And let me make it very clear before I start that this is possible way that you can prepare. I don't claim that this is the only foolproof plan, as there cannot be one plan suiting everyone, right? So as per your needs, you can, keep changing your plans, but ensure that you stick to whatever you plan, right? So let's talk about how one can approach 2021 prelims. At the first place here, let's get a fair idea. How much time do you have? Do we have at our disposal? So we have around 6 months henceforth, December to May, you can say, or 7 months if you include June as well, because 27th of June 2021 is the next year prelims, right? So those who will be planning for next year prelims, they have around 6 months for their preparation, or you can say including June, 7 months for their preparation. What I find suitable is to divide this whole time period into some segments, or you can say slots. But before we do that, let's see what are going to be major components of our strategy or maybe preparation. So one of the major components is by default going to be current affairs, which you all are aware about. Then the second important component is going to be basics, being thorough with basics, that is being thorough with your basic concepts. And then third important component is going to be practice questions. You can also call it as a revision session. So these, broadly speaking, are going to be three important pillars of your preparation for prelims. And please keep in mind, I'm discussing this only from the point of view of 2021 attempt at this moment, right? Next slide, we will be dealing with those who are planning for 2022. So these are going to be the basic components of your preparation for prelims. These basic components of preparation are applicable for those who are planning for 2021 and those who are planning for 2022 as well, right? So let's try and see how can we schedule this all into these 6 months. What can be probable, or probably the best possible way to prepare it, right? So in my opinion, I would say that we will have some macro planning at the first place, having a fair idea that we have 6 months at our disposal. So I would probably divide it into three major components, or three major slots, right? 2 months each. So the first slot, as you all can see on your slides or your screen, that first slot probably I'll be dedicating to reading of basic concepts thoroughly, and simultaneously keeping track of current affairs, right? So that is for 2 months, that is the next month, December and January. For these 60 days, I will divide my basics, that is all those subjects: history, geography, polity, economy, environment, and science, in these 2 months. And in these 2 months, I would try and ensure that at least I cover the basic readings of all these subjects. And this is for those who are going to give their first attempt in 2021. But those who have already given their attempt and have been preparing for, say, 2 years or 3 years or so, what they can do is, they can, instead of allotting 2 months here, they may try to complete their reading, which is certainly not going to be the first reading, as you have been preparing for a long time, right? So probably your reading you can complete in 40-45 days or so, right? And that is certainly possible. It's not very difficult. It's not very I'm not talking about something that is highly impossible. There are students, those who plan accordingly, and they actually cover their syllabus very well. But for those who will be giving their first attempt in 2021, they may need more, maybe 60 days, and some of you may need more than 60 days, right, for covering those topics: history, geography, economy, polity, and environment and science, right? So those topics can be covered here in first 2 months, that is December and January, along with current affairs. So what you need to do, so far as daily routine is concerned, probably you can divide your day into 2 slots, into 2 segments. One segment completely dedicated for basics, understanding concepts, again through NCERTs or easiest possible books which you find, right? And second component every day will be focusing on current affairs, which will essentially without fail include reading of newspaper on daily basis, and if possible jotting down the notes, right? So this is what is this is what in my opinion should be the first 2 months of your preparation so far as plan for 2021 is concerned. Next, in second slot, we will be starting from 1st of February onwards till end of March. So February and March, these 2 months, what you can do is you can plan your revision of all those basic concepts which you have gone through in first 2 months. I understand some of you may not be able to cover all these subjects. Some of you may still carry over some part or maybe 1 or 2 subjects. So that is fine, right? But the subjects which you have already covered in first 2 months, you can certainly think of revising those subjects in next 2 months. So there will be a second revision, or maybe first revision, I would say, first revision of those subjects which you have covered in first 2 months, that is December and January. And then in next two, that is February and March, you can keep covering the remaining part as well as revision of the first two, revision of already covered subjects. Next important component in this second slot will be the practice test papers. So those who are going to appear for first attempt, for them starting for practice test papers right from February, would be really a good idea, right? You will get to know why. I'll let you know. But then those who have been preparing it for now almost 2-3 years and have been giving their attempts and still not able to clear, I would advise those all, you can start your practicing question papers right from December onwards. Don't wait for January or February to start working on your practice test papers. Why am I saying this? The reason is solving test papers is not just enough. You have to have enough time to revise them and revise them thoroughly, right? Not just 1 or 2 revisions, but you have to be very, very, very clear about revisions, considering or given the fact that UPSC's prelims is so competitive, and there are several students, those who plan this in this fashion, and they actually work tirelessly to get through prelims. So for those who have been preparing for last 1.5 year or maybe 2 years or 3 years and have already given their attempt, they can certainly think of starting their practice test papers right from December itself, right? But for first attemptees, those who are going to give their first attempt in 2021, right, for them revision of basics and practice test paper can be the task for February and March. Now the third slot, right, again of 2 months, that is April and May, will be a revision through test series and revising current affairs. In this last slot of 2 months, right, please remember that we do have one more month, that is month of June, as 27th of June 2021 is the prelims, right? So you do have one more month. So apart from these 6 months, I have kept in this planning 1 month spare, you can say extra, wherein you can still keep working on some of the weak aspects of your of your preparation, right? Some of you may need to dedicate daily 2 or 3 hours for preparing CSAT, and that you can start from March onwards, right? So you get enough time to even get a sufficient hold over CSAT as well, that is GS paper 2, right? So April and May, if you are done with these 2 slots and have religiously followed your syllabus as well as your schedule, you will be, I'm quite sure that you will certainly come in this situation wherein you have adequate time to revise all the previous years, all the question papers, test series question papers, plus your basic concepts and current affairs. And still you get the last month, that is month of June, wherein you can keep working on new material. If at all there is anything in current, you can still prepare on those aspects wherein you find yourself to be weak, right? You can keep revising those areas, right? Because prelims also demands you to mug up some facts in some cases, in some subjects, right? And so that can be kept in the last part, that is in the month of June. And in the month of June, you can certainly think of solving some some comprehensive tests so as to get the confidence and so as to go for a kind of overall revision of your syllabus. So dear friends, this is something, a broad plan for those who are going to give an attempt in 2021. But then these broad plans can be executed and are feasible and are possible to attain these targets only if you divide them, only if you cut them into micro plans, divide them in on micro level. So what do you mean by micro planning? Here I'm not going to tell you about your daily planning, at what time you should be sitting for study and etc. No, I'm just telling you that you should have a very clear cut idea about your week, a complete week that you are going to prepare, how many topics you need to prepare in this week, so that you can actually complete your targets of first, second and third slot. So you have to have those weekly targets very well set, right? And then accordingly you can certainly you can certainly attain your targets of those two broad targets, I would say, or macro targets, right? So this, dear friends, is a general idea about how one can plan for prelims 2021, right? I know, as I have already said, that it is not necessary that this suits everyone, right? It is not at all necessary. Somebody may take more time in first slot itself, right? Instead of 2 months, somebody may consume 3 months simply to read and complete the basic concepts and NCRTs and etc. That is absolutely fine. But then after those 3 months, plan accordingly, or you can actually, instead of these 2 months, you can divide it into 1.5 month slots, and accordingly you put enough time, adequate time for revisions, because revisions are something which are going to play a very crucial role in your success, particularly in prelims. So that in brief about is about planning for UPSC prelims 2021. Now let's come to the next slide, dear friends, and here we will be talking about those who are aiming at UPSC prelims 2022. I mean to say those who will be giving their attempt next to next year, right? As you all must be knowing that we are going to start with a batch on the 1st of December, right? And that batch actually aims on 2022 attempt, and the aspirants or students, those who are waiting for 2022 attempt. So intentionally I have added this particular slide here, wherein I want to address those people or those students, those who are waiting for that attempt, and how can they plan for their prelims, right from December this week, December this year. It is like tomorrow, Honorable Tukaram Jadhav sir will be discussing in detail the roadmap for 2022. But I'll take this opportunity today, to just let you know how can you plan your prelims for 2022. So here again, I would say that you have to have a macro plan, right? And that macro plan must consider some of the important points. So what these points can be, right? So the macro plan, precisely focusing on prelims, must have balancing prelims and mains, optional and GS being more particular. Now you would ask me a very simple question, that why is it necessary to think about optional while you are planning for prelims? It is necessary because prelims, or your study for prelims, or for that matter GS mains, cannot be kept in an isolation from your optional subject. Optional subject carries a heavy weightage so far as mains is concerned, and so you have to give enough time for preparation of optional subject. And when you don't have when you don't judiciously distribute your time slots or your time period of 1.5 years henceforth, right, you will find that you will be compromising on some other aspect of your preparation as a whole. So instead of doing that, it would be always advisable that you have to have a very clear judicious allocation of time, which is there at your disposal. So those who will be planning for 2022 attempt, they have 1.5 years in their hands, almost around 18 months in their hand, so that they can plan it accordingly. And 18 months is really enough time for even first attempt is to get through the prelims and actually appear for mains. But they have to be very cautious so far as their planning is concerned. So that's the reason why I'll be giving you little insights or some insights into how you can actually broadly speaking plan for the same. So balancing prelims and mains are two important points, here, there is general understanding, there is general tendency in students and aspirants that they start their prelims and studies for prelims uh, somewhere, at the end of December or from December onwards, right? So those who are going to plan for 2022 prelims, I'm quite sure most of you will be, starting your prelims, somewhere in December 2021. I advise you not to do so. The reason is, as I have already said while discussing syllabus for prelims, that some of the components or all the components which are there in prelims are also there in mains. So you have to see it, that how can you integrate your prelims with GS mains. Integrating the subjects with GS mains would help you cover at least 50% of prelims study before you actually or exclusively start with the prelims and its preparation. So what is advisable? I will give you one example so that you understand. Let's take an example of modern Indian history. For instance, when we talk about modern Indian history, and if you are studying, say, for UPSC Men's GS, and you are, reading the part of, say mass movements which took place during Gandhian phase, be more particular. So don't just read them from the point of view of men's, right? But also try and get details out of that reading, which you can actually use for your prelims. It's not going to be very difficult way of preparation. Simultaneously, while you are preparing for mains, you can prepare for your prelims, and whatever you read for prelims can certainly be integrated or can be used for your mains as well, right? So balancing the preparation is really very important when you are heading towards your target of 2022 prelims, right? So as I have said here, the overlapping syllabus for mains and prelims can be first identified very clearly, right? And then you can prepare accordingly. You can simply have a note of those topics which are overlapping with mains and prelims, and it is very easy. You have prelims syllabus available on UPSC's website, and you also have mains GS syllabus available on UPSC's website. It has been also been given on the Unique Academy's website. You can all actually go through the syllabus, see the points which are actually common points, and start working on the same, right? Apart from that, those who are planning for 2022, right, also need to go through the previous year's question paper chapter wise. You people, those who will be attempting 2022 prelims, have enough time to do this, that is topic wise or chapter wise analysis of previous year's question papers. Those who are going for 2021 attempt, probably they don't have enough time to do this chapter wise. Also, they will also do it, they will also have to go through previous year's question papers, no doubt. However, they can think of subject wise, like, or maybe year wise, the questions asked from, say, geography in 2019, questions asked on, say, economy in 2020 or 2020. So accordingly, those who are planning for 2021, they can do it, whereas those who are planning for 2022, because you have adequate time, and you can, on weekly basis, you can target some topics and read previous year's question papers and then read those topics again. So that would be really very fruitful, because with that peace of mind, you will be able to go into details of what type of questions have been asked, what are different dimensions, where are the traps in those questions. You can very easily invest your time on previous year's question papers, and that will be certainly fruitful for you. Next important point for those who are planning for 2022, as I said, till July or maybe July 2021 onwards till December 2021, every Sunday you can think of going for one test series. Now, it may be the case that it would be too early for those who are planning for 2022 to start with the test series, but I would say that one test per Sunday is not big deal, right? And from December onwards, that is December 2021, December 2022 till June 2021, you have around 6 to 7 months in hand, wherein you can start preparation, read NCRTs, complete basics of all GS subjects, and then you can certainly go for one test every week, so that by the end of December 2021, that is next year, you'll be done with at least around 25 tests, before actually others The other students, those who actually start with their preparation, you will be already done with around 20 to 25 tests, and that would be certainly an achievement and would certainly give you a great confidence to approach your prelims in 2022. So, and then once you are done with 2021, that is next year, then you can think of exclusively dedicating January 2022 onwards, that is next to next year, till May 2022, exclusive preparation for prelims. And then I think that if you dedicate this much time, cleverly, there is nothing that can stop you from getting through. But yes, it is a different story that you have to ardently follow it, passionately follow it, and then probably this seems, or this may become a reality, right? So that was in brief, in short, about planning for 2021 and about planning for 2022, precisely focusing on prelims, right? Now, dear friends, there are other aspects of planning as well, planning, or you can say roadmap. And on that part, tomorrow, Tukaram Jadhav sir will be certainly giving you details about, right? So allow me to now shift to next part of our webinar today, and that deals with revision session. Initially, at the outset of today's webinar, I have already said that revision sessions actually play a very crucial role so far as prelims is concerned. It is equally true for mains, no doubt. However, for prelims, it becomes really very crucial. Now, why so? And why is it important to revise things? The reason here, particularly for prelims, is it has a wide coverage of syllabus, and also it actually has wide coverage of current affairs too, right? So keeping in mind that coverage of current affairs and the syllabus, it is necessary that you have a very good thorough understanding and good memory of all those facts which you read, all those concepts which you read, and all those events which you are going to follow for around 1.5 years or so. So to ensure that you can very easily, or you are in a position to very easily reproduce those facts without any stress, without any extra efforts, you have to revise. You have to revise, and that too, not just once or twice, but as many times as you can. But now the question basically is what to revise, how to revise, right? And then what actually revision stands for. So friends, when we talk about revision, right, in common parlance, the students have, or maybe aspirants have, an understanding that, the revision is nothing but just going through, right, or not actually giving a full attention to the details. But in my opinion, that's not the correct attitude or maybe approach while you are revising things. Revisions are, in my opinion, are almost nothing but or equal to reading it one more time. When it comes to prelims, it must be reading it one more time. And those important details which you might be highlighting in books, or which you might have jotted down in the form of notes while you were reading the things or reading your syllabus, all those points which you have jotted down, all the events of current affairs which you have jotted down, or maybe you are referring from some other current affairs compilation, all these things need to be revised thoroughly so that you can reproduce them at any given time in the prelims, right? So revision, in my opinion, is nothing but reworking again, going through same thing, with same intention, with same concentration, with same focus, and trying to get all details, or you can say brushing up all details. But that brushing up, in my opinion, should not be just turning the pages, but you have to be very cautious about your reading. So I would say that revision is nothing but rework. You're almost kind of going through it again and again, right? So that is one point. Next, how many times and how can you plan your revisions? Now friends, again, for this there cannot be one set plan for all, but then I would say that revising things once in 15 days, once every fortnight would be advisable. Keeping a gap of a month or more than that, you will lose the confidence. The reason being, longer the gap between revisions, or maybe between first reading and revision, there is higher chance that you tend to lose the content, you tend to lose the grasp over subject and facts. So it is always advisable that you revise things at least every 15 days, if not every 15 days, at least every month, right? So what do you mean by revision every 15 days? So in simple way, whatever you have covered in 15 days, give around 2 days or so to revise those things, and try and thoroughly do so, right? If possible, so far as monthly revisions are concerned, probably you have to allot 4 to 5 days at the end of the month to cover a complete syllabus or maybe complete part which you have studied in that particular month. So that can be done. There are students, there are aspirants, those who revise on weekly basis. That is also good idea, no doubt. However, you have to be very patient when you revise things on weekly basis, because on weekly basis, when you revise things, you'll find that you are not moving ahead with the syllabus, so you're not completing the syllabus. So there will be always a kind of drag, right, so far as weekly revisions are concerned. But yes, of course weekly revisions are equally fruitful, in fact more fruitful as compared to other types of revisions. Daily revisions, yeah, one may think of that, but I don't recommend. The reason is only one, that you don't actually revise, and daily revisions are not that fruitful in long term. So it would be better if you do it on 15 days, right? So that you can actually get to know which points are you losing on, and which facts or maybe concepts you need to work one more time, right? So that is one way of, or maybe a common way of revising things. Next way of revising is through your test series, right? Maybe in last 1 month, or maybe last 1 or 2 months. This is also very effective way of revising your complete syllabus and your level of preparation. What happens is, when you are solving test series, you come across several questions, and that too from different aspects or different parts of your subject. This enables you to directly jump on that particular part of your subject or that particular part of your book and revise or maybe read immediately. When you are revising your test series, when you are solving your test series, once you are done with the solving, right, when you recheck it, when you go through that test series again, when you do analysis of your test series, you can go back to your basic books, and you can search for the areas wherein you went wrong, right? And you can keep that particular point or maybe that particular area handy, and you can revise it again. So that is really a very good and effective way of revising. Why am I saying effective? The reason being, while you solve the test series, your brains are triggered for those particular questions, and when you go wrong with that, right, with that triggered and active brain, if you go and read the part, only that specific part asked in the question, you'll find that you retain it in long-term memory. So this is something which I generally advise to all the students, or which we generally advise to all the students. However, this again needs to be followed religiously. You cannot simply be uh, simply reading it for the sake of reading or for the sake of solving, right? So you have to be very religious about this particular thing as well. Next, the next mode of revision is subjects plus current affairs. Now, what do you mean by this? So you will be actually keeping a track of current affairs for almost 1 year or maybe 1.5 years, right? What can be done? So when you are reading current affairs, right, whether from newspaper, right, or whether you are referring the monthly compilations for current affairs, right, whichever compilation, right, what you are expected to do is, when you come across a news in your newspaper or maybe in current affairs compilation, go back and read the basic concepts related with that particular news, right? So like for example, the cyclonic condition which is presently there in the Bay of Bengal, right? You go and read about cyclones, how do they develop, what are different types of cyclones, what are, and these types of things. So when you revise it, right, revision can be done with the help of current affairs and going back to subjects. So this is something which is also equally beneficial. However, this is more beneficial for those who are those who have already given attempts, and those who have little bit thorough understanding of different basic concepts. For them, it would be really better, right? Then reading previous year's question papers is again one more very effective way of revising your syllabus. So there are several compilations available in market, and you can purchase
One of them, previous year's question papers are also available on UPSC's website, right? So you can download them and read previous year's question papers, and all those topics which UPSC has already asked, right? Those areas, when you are reading previous year's question papers, you can simply jump onto your books and you can, jump into your books and you can see those areas. You can read those areas, questions which have been asked by UPSC. Let's say, for example, for polity, Indian polity, almost every year UPSC asks somewhere between 15 to 20 questions, right? So if you're reading previous year's question paper, let's say for last 10 years, in that case you will be having around 200 questions already asked by UPSC, and those 200 questions are nothing but 200 topics for you to read, right? So you can simply take your NCRT or maybe whichever book that you refer for polity, right, and simply prepare for those 200 topics, right? That is a way how you can revise. I'm just telling you, it is expected revisions are possible when you are already done with when you are already done with your basics, right? Revision is basically only then when you are done with your basics, right? Next is, how many revisions do we really require to plan? It depends. It varies person to person. I cannot say that 3 revisions would be enough, 1 revision would be enough, 2 revisions would be enough. It depends on your level of understanding. It also depends on your ability to retain facts. It also depends on your ability to recall or recall things, right? So maybe on an average, I think around 2 to 3 revisions, and revisions of this type, kind of reworking, would be really sufficient for you to at least recall things. I don't say that all things which you read, you will retain them, but then yes, you will be in a position to at least recall them if you are revising thoroughly, right? Next, what to revise? I would say facts mostly, but then it is not necessary that you all may need to revise only facts. You may also need to rework on your concepts. I won't say concepts can be revised. I would say instead that you have to rework and uh, understand your concepts again, right? So probably what to revise, mostly the factual material and factual data you have to revise. And here you will find the current affairs material involves a lot of facts, a lot of factual data, and so you have to revise current affairs really very thoroughly so as to get good hold over it, and which you can, very easy, which will be helpful for you while you are appearing for your prelims. So that in brief was, about uh, what do you mean by revisions and how can you actually plan your revisions, what different types of revisions can be, and what uh, is the role of test series as well as current affairs as well as previous year's question papers, so far as revisions are concerned. Now we will be discussing about the next part or next aspect in preparation, and that is role of previous year's question papers so far as your preparation for prelims is concerned. Now, as you can see the subtitle here, and the subtitle says that valuable companion in preparation. Now, why am I saying valuable companion? The reason is, this is valuable. The reason is, previous year's question papers are nothing but a kind of mirror of or a way or a window to enter into the mind of examiner, right? And not just that, but there are other uses, or you can say utilities, of previous year's question paper. So let's go one by one. So when we say objective exam, which is dealing with facts, right, you have no scope for interpretations on your own, right? So what you need to do is you have to be very clear and very precisely focused on the question. So whatever you think while solving the question, you have to think within given bracket of the question. You cannot apply your extra knowledge to solve the questions, right? Sometimes, but most of the time you'll find that you have to be very precisely focusing on the question itself. Sometimes you may also get a chance to apply an extra knowledge and extra a logic and then solve it. However, it goes most of the time it goes wrong, right? So what previous question paper will do, it will keep you on track, right? This is most important point. in prelims, being more particular. What do you mean by to be on track at the first place when you are preparing for UPSC? To be on track is not to lose the grasp of syllabus. One. Second, not to also lose the focus or maybe approach that you need to carry while you are appearing for prelims or maybe for mains as well, right? So these previous year's question papers will also let you know. You can say that these previous year's question papers are nothing but a kind of a torchlight which will help you sail through, right? So it is very important that you stay anchored with your exact track of preparation, right? And previous year's question papers will certainly help you. Now, in what way? So basically, previous year's question paper will let you know if you are preparing, say, for general science. So what type of questions do they actually ask, right? And what do you need to prepare for the same, right? And listen, until you don't know about the questions, how and what are you going to prepare? If you just think of environment and ecology and biodiversity and climate change, these topics are so vast and they cover so many things, you will find it really very difficult to cover one topic for prelims, in a complete year, because there is always, huge amount of material that is going to come in current affairs, and you have to work on it rigorously. So instead of doing that, instead of wasting your efforts, it would be always better to be very pinpoint, very precise while you are preparing. And what helps you to be precise in your preparation, is previous year's question paper, because they help you understand what exactly is the focus, right? So this is something which I would recommend you to continuously focus on or to keep working on, that is previous year's question papers. Next, it also lets you know what is the weightage, subject wise weightage, of all those topics in the syllabus, particularly in prelims. How many questions in general UPSC prelims gives a weightage for, say, history, or maybe for polity, or maybe for geography. So from where are you going to get it? So certainly you will be getting these insights from previous year's question papers, right? Next, reading mind of examiner. As I have already said this, previous year's question papers enable you can say that these are nothing but key to open the lock, or key to open the examiner's mind. It is really crucial, it is really very important to understand what exactly examiner expects from you so far as prelims is concerned. Now, why is it important? The reason being, prelims is very dynamic so far as its coverage is concerned. So you cannot keep preparing for, preparing for huge material, right? It would be really very difficult, and you would certainly find it really at times boring and at times burdensome to revise that whole material, right? So instead of that, reading the mind of examiner, through previous year's question papers, will enable you to precisely pick the news, or maybe aspects, maybe topics from your books, NCRTs and syllabus, right? And that would be really great idea while you are preparing. Next, types of questions, whether you have factual questions or you have conceptual questions. And not just that, whether you have statement based questions, whether you have absolutely facts, one statement, two statement, and so on and so forth. So there are different types, of questions that UPSC generally asks in prelims. So you also get to know what are different types of questions, and you can certainly, prepare accordingly. Next, possible traps. Now, this is a very interesting thing. What do you mean by traps? Is it that they actually set any traps as such in question paper? Yeah, to a certain extent they do that, right? But they do it very subtly, so you probably don't get to know if you don't read the previous year's question paper. So you have to be not just reading the question papers, but you have to be very thoroughly reading it. You have to be doing analysis of the same. And let me just for a while speak about analysis as well. Analysis need not necessarily mean, or only mean, dividing the questions according to syllabus, or maybe according to topics. No, and not just or just getting to know about the weightage of different topics. No, that is very apparent or maybe superficial analysis of previous year's question papers. I feel like you have to go into further depth of analyzing every single question, why a particular question has been asked in a particular fashion, right? If that question has been asked, say a particular thing has been asked in a match the pair format, why they have been, or they have asked a match the pair instead of a statement. So there are different ways of looking at one particular question, right? So dear friends, it is really very important to understand all those traps. You will also find that some questions do have a kind of warning statements, or you can say guiding statements instead, I would say. So those guiding statements are like, which of the above options are correct or not correct, right? Or select correct answer, or select the correct answer and with from the given options. So those guiding lines or warning statements are also to certain extent traps. There are certain words also being used in exams, and you'll find that those words do carry some specific meaning, right? And for that you have to be very cautious about. So dear friends, so far as previous year's question papers are concerned, this is what I think, that these previous year's question papers will be helping you in your preparation this way, right? So a very valuable companion so far as your prelims preparation is concerned, and you cannot lose on this. You have to be reading thoroughly previous year's question papers on daily basis. Let me make it very clear, right? Yeah. So next part that we have today under discussion is the importance of test series. Now, nowadays, the aspirants are, mm, they're always looking for a test series, and how many test series, and I have to solve the test series. But there are very few those who really understand what do you mean by appearing for test series, and what for are you actually appearing for test series. So let me before I start with this particular slide, let me be very clear to you all that test series solving is not something that is highly essential, or without which you cannot get through, right? But I would certainly say that it would certainly help you, right, in getting through. Now you may ask me a question very easily, that why am I saying that a test series is not uh, the indispensable factor without which you cannot clear, right? The reason is test series inculcates in you that attitude or approach which is required for dealing with objective type of questions, right? One. Second, test series helps you to also understand, as you can see here on your screen, some of the behavioral aspects. How do you actually react or respond to a particular question, right? The test series also helps you to manage your time, right? The types of questions, factual or conceptual, you can deal with them. You also get to know whether you are prejudiced about some concept, or some reading or some understanding of some concept, right? They also play a very great role in applying logic and guesswork, right? Whether you do it in a wrong manner, or whether you apply extra logic, right? So these all are in short a benefit of test series. But these benefits are only available to those who think, or who actually appear for test series with that clear conviction that the test series, I am looking at test series, I am appearing for test series for gaining these things, right? So you have to be very 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 clear about it, right? It may happen that in some test series you may, or in some test paper, you may not score good marks, right? But here the focus should not be only on marks, right? Only the score that you attain, but the focus should be whether you could manage to revise that said syllabus through that test series, whether you could understand some of the salient aspects of your behavior while you are appearing for some other questions, right? I mean to say, what generally happens is, you are prejudiced with some questions, some concepts. You try and use your own logic, right? Or you try and use guesswork. Sometimes you take some questions too personally, because you have a kind of attachment with some other subject, and so you think that, oh, how come I go wrong with this question, I must be able to solve the question. And so you keep wasting your time, you keep investing, I would say, in fact, more time, and so you lose on other questions, right? So these behavioral aspects are equally important to be noted while you are appearing for test series, right? Then you can also get to know whether you are factually going wrong or you are conceptually going wrong, what exactly you need to prepare very well. So that is also something you get to know in the test series. But as I have already said, the test series would help you, certainly help you, if you're looking for at least these benefits from test series. If you're solving test series because others are solving, your colleagues are solving, or maybe your colleagues have joined test series, some other test series, then that probably won't play any role in your success, right? What should be your strategy while solving test series and how you should go about it should be your own plan, right? So dear friends, while you are solving test series, this is something which I think you must be looking for, right? Whether you are applying extra logic, or maybe a wrong logic, or maybe extra guesswork, right? Are you not prejudiced with some concepts and its understanding, right? That you have to also search for, right? Can you manage time while solving those questions? That also you have to search for. So this, in short or in very brief, what test series may help you while you are planning for your prelims. And that's the reason why in the previous slides I have already said that one must go for test series only when he is done very thoroughly with the basics and current affairs of substantial period, right? And then one can think of appearing for tests, because then only those test series or maybe those question papers would be really helping you. Otherwise it would be just an exercise without any actual gain as such. So that, dear friends, was about test series and how test series plays a very important role in preparation. Let's come to the next part, and that is current affairs. Jawad Kazi sir has already conducted one webinar, complete webinar on current affairs, how one can prepare for the same, and can integrate current affairs with the preparation. So I will be as brief as possible, and I would focus on this slide only from the prelims perspective, right? So far as current affairs are concerned, you all know they are backbone, or it is actually a backbone of your preparation. So when you are preparing particularly for competitive exams, you cannot think of losing on current affairs. You have to be very thorough, you have to be keeping track of current affairs on regular basis, right? Let me again tell you that newspapers is something that you must read. You must read, there isn't any other option, right? I don't say that monthly compilations are not important. You can certainly read monthly compilations, but newspaper on daily basis is something that you have to invest a quality time on, right? It's not wastage of time. Once you get acquainted with the syllabus, once you get acquainted with the previous year's question papers asked by UPSC, filtering relevant news from newspaper would be really easy for you. So you may choose the Hindu, you may also choose the Indian Express, either of it. I won't say that it is necessary that you must read both of them, right? Because if you are reading monthly compilations, right, then reading newspaper and then reading monthly compilations would be kind of revision, right? So please see to it that you read newspaper on daily basis. uh, we all faculty members here at Unique Academy have been time and again asking students to read newspaper on daily basis, and still people or students come, or aspirants come and question us that would it be enough if we see only some other compilation and we don't read the newspaper, or if we only follow some YouTube channel and we don't read the newspaper. I would say you follow all YouTube channels which you prefer for compilation, or maybe for completing your reading, completing your current affairs. But still it would be always better if you at least take your newspaper every day in hand and go through it, so that you keep track regularly of events that are taking place, right? And every day with fresh mind, right, reading newspaper is altogether a enriching experience, and that will certainly help you in prelims, right? So this is what I think particularly for newspapers and monthly compilations, right? Next, notes for current affairs. I would advise you all that if possible, and if you are really good at drafting notes, in short span of time, then do this. Otherwise, see, you already have got monthly compilations, which are nothing but notes of current affairs. So you can rely on monthly compilations so far as notes are concerned. It is not necessary every time that you draft the notes, but we all know that some of you would always like to draft their own notes, so they can continue if they do have ability to draft the notes in a short span of time, and can be very precise. So notes would certainly be very handy while you revise them at the end, right? So current affairs also have basically two sets. One is informative and the second one is conceptual. So far as this conceptual part of current affairs is concerned, you can go back to your basics, you can go back to your basic NCRTs or maybe books, and wherein you can read this conceptual part. So far as informative part is concerned, this is something which you have to thoroughly revise again and again, right? So building on current affairs basically involves these two components. So one, informative, which needs repetitive revisions, and conceptual part, which probably I would say needs revisiting to your basic books, and then kind of having a relook at those concepts, right? There is one more way of looking at current affairs and overall preparation through current affairs. So for those who are going to attempt in 2022, for them, first reading books and basics and linking basic and books to the current affairs is a better way, because you are not very well prepared with the basics. And for those who are giving 2021 attempt, that is next year's prelims, for them, working on current affairs and then going to books or basics would be much better way of preparing. So you choose accordingly, whichever suits you, right? Next, as I've already again said, that your approach should be integrated one, right? Wherein you involve question papers, solving question papers as a part of your preparation, reading and revising basics as a part of your preparation, plus keeping track of current affairs and linking them with basics. So this, in short, is a small key to effectively prepare for prelims. So dear friends, that is in very brief about current affairs, how you should actually work on current affairs, right? Next important part now, after having been discussed uh, in detail, or maybe in detail, I would say, about this strategy for GS paper 1, right? Let me in brief also talk about GS paper 2, or you can call it as a CSAT, and how can one actually approach for CSAT. And I will be very brief about the preparation for CSAT, being more particular. Now paper 2, it is qualifying, accepted. However, it is really very essential, right? So what can one do? Don't take things granted. So focusing on strength would be always advisable. So those who are good at reading comprehension can focus on reading comprehension, right? Those who are good at mathematics and those who are good at numerical ability as well as logical reasoning can do that, right? But that does not mean that other parts can be kept for option. I don't say that, and it is not certainly recommended. But then focusing on strength would be a very good thing for getting through CSAT, right? So practice plays a crucial role, particularly for CSAT. Now, as I have already said in the initial two slides while we were discussing about syllabus of paper 2, there are two types of aspirants basically when it comes to paper 2, that is CSAT. One, those who are overconfident about it, and the other one, those who are underconfident about it, right? So those who are overconfident about it, they also need to be very cautious. The reason being, UPSC's GS paper 2, though it is qualifying, but is not that easy. Over the period of time, if you go back from 2011 onwards till date, right, if you see all the papers, CSAT papers being more particular, you'll find that they have stepped up the difficulty levels time and again. So the difficulty level of paper 2, GS paper 2, is really, or the level of questions that come, they are really challenging, and it requires preparation, it requires your dedicated time, right? Maybe less those who are good at reading comprehension, those who are good at numerical ability, those who are good at these types of questions may need very short time, but please ensure that you are dedicating at least a part of your time for solving these papers and preparing for these types of questions. Here again, for paper 2, previous year's question papers plays a very crucial role, right? And now the second set of aspirants, those who are underconfident about this paper, what they need to do is, as I've already talked about in the general plan, which you may choose to follow, right? You can give at least maybe 1.5 hour every day, March onwards, if you are attempting next 2021 prelims, March onwards, on daily basis, investing your 1.5 hour on GS paper 2 would be really fruitful, and it will you will substantially gain the confidence to deal with paper 2. Please remember that paper 2 is qualifying, so you just need to cross that barrier of 1/3 marks, right? Which is really not very difficult, but of course needs a preparation, right? So as I said, focusing on strength is one of the most important aspect that you can think of. So practice also plays crucial role. You can think of some test series that you solve. You can also take previous year's question papers, and you can solve previous year's question papers. That will also help you, right? So what other parts you need to work on? Language comprehension is something which is comparatively easy to prepare. I don't say that it is the easiest part or maybe something that is very easy. Why am I saying this? It is comparatively easy to prepare. The reason being, every now and then, every day, you will be reading something, right? Whether you are preparing your optional subject, whether you are preparing for your essay, you are preparing for your your GS or prelims, you know that you will be reading lot of material, right? You will be reading newspaper every day, right? You will be reading your newspaper compilations every day. So this reading, which is by default a part of your preparation, enables you to get acquainted with different subjects. One, enables you to get acquainted with good vocabulary. It also enables you to get acquainted with different types of arrangements of paragraphs and I would say passages, right? So reading newspaper is really helpful in this particular thing. So language comprehension is something which I think going to help you a lot, because for this you need not to dedicate very specific separate time. Every day reading newspaper, every day reading books, every day reading NCRTs would certainly help you get good strength for this particular topic, good acquaintance of language comprehension. Of course, it needs specific skills for which you can dedicate a specific time in the later stage of your preparation. Next is mental ability, basic numeracy, decision making, data interpretation. Now, so far as this part is concerned, let me make it very clear to you all that I know we all, the faculty members here at UNIC, are aware of the fact that there is a group of aspirants, those who are really fearful of this, because this involves some sort of calculation. This requires some sort of mathematical ability and mathematical aptitude. But see, friends, it is not that difficult. What you can do is, on daily basis, or maybe weekly basis, you can give some time for this part and start your preparation right from first day of your preparation, right? Weekly, probably one topic every week. So far as mental ability is concerned, say syllogism. So what you can do is rule based general mental ability or problem solving. What you can do is, every week you can decide one topic, and maybe half an hour every day you can work on those topics, and that would certainly help you to cover the syllabus as well as get good confidence by the end of the year, and you can very confidently appear for your GS paper 2 in this for this particular part. So language comprehension and this part, which is based more or less on mathematical aptitude. I won't say that mathematics, right? And let me tell you that mental ability, basic numeracy, decision making, and data interpretation are actually different topics, right? They don't have same type of questions, right? They are different topics. However, they all involve, sufficient or at least basic bare minimum mathematical aptitude, which you need to work on or which you need to apply here. So far as paper second is concerned, this is what I think in brief, a strategy you have to keep. So those who are planning for 2021, right from 1st December or maybe from next month, you have to allocate maybe half an hour a day or maybe an hour a day, for each topic here, and you can slowly gain on your paper second as well. And those who are quite confident about it, particularly those who are coming from technical background, maybe engineers, maybe those who are coming from science background, may find it comparatively easy, but don't take it granted, right? Don't take it for granted, because you may lose substantially here on paper second if you don't practice, right? So the practice and working on strength would certainly help you get good hold over paper second, and you can certainly cross the said mark of 1/3 score in paper second. So that was very brief in about brief about paper second and preparing paper second for prelims. Now let me come to the second last slide here, which deals with some psychological aspects, some aspects or maybe some issues that you deal with while you are preparing for prelims, and not just for prelims but throughout the preparation. So what are the points that we need to work on? So we all faculty members here, or have seen that, or mentors here have seen that you people have trust issues regarding study material, and at times with the faculties as well, right? So the trust issues that you have to do away with this, right? Believe in the fact that basic books like NCRTs and one reference book each subject actually serves the purpose, really serves the purpose, right? But then when you invest good amount of time on reading those subjects, when you invest good amount of energy on reading and understanding those subjects, getting your doubts cleared from your mentors, right, helps you, in dealing with this psychological issue. What do you mean by this trust issue with study material? I just wanted to point out that there are students, those who generally think like they're confused whether I should go for I should read Lakshmikant, or I should read Didi Basu, or I should read, say, some A class ka current affairs compilation or B class ka current affairs compilation. Which material should I rely on? See, so far as basics are concerned, so far as basic subjects are concerned, uh, you all must be aware about the fact that you need to read NCRT books, right? Those who find NCRT books really very difficult to understand, you can rely on state board books as well, right? Which are there in your mother tongue, or maybe in Marathi or Hindi or something of that sort. So you can read those state books as well, just to ensure that you get quality material to understand the concepts, right? And so that would be really sufficient. One reference book, one subject, and then NCRTs, right? Next, some of you also face kind of anxiety or fear or lack of confidence. Let me tell you that lack of confidence sometimes, or maybe most of the time, is because of underestimation of your strength, right? Students, those who face this type of I would say phenomenon or maybe issue, I don't say that they don't work hard, they don't work smart, but still they lose on their confidence. The reason is they attach themselves a lot, to the exam. So instead of doing that, you have to see it very practically, very pragmatically. What is exam all about, right? So exam only helps you to the prelims only helps you to get to mains, right? Or maybe that whole complete UPSC exam actually helps you to attain a particular post so that you can work. So don't worry about that exam doesn't actually define your life, right? So you have to do away with this anxiety and fear, working rigorously on syllabus, on your on your subjects, on your books, and planning will certainly help you to, at least to major extent, to deal with this fear factor or maybe anxiety, right? Next is lack of satisfaction, particularly regarding study material. There are students, there are aspirants, those who prefer reading more number of books for same topic. In prelims, that is certainly not required. What you need to do is you can refer to more number of books, right? But for selective topics, right, just for the sake of referencing, you cannot keep reading more number of books. That would certainly not help you, right? And nowadays the material is available in the form of compilations, right? So almost for every single subject, every single topic which is mentioned in the syllabus, you'll find that there are compilations available which actually compile, different information from different books, and you can read them, right? So it is something that is really very helpful for you. Like for example, if we see the Modern India book published by Spectrum Publication, is in fact a compilation. It's not a book as such. It is a ready reference for you, while you are preparing for prelims, right? So something that is not given in, say, Grover and Grover, you'll find that information being given there. And so it actually is compilation from different sources. So such compilations would certainly help you. Instead of reading more number of books, you can rely on one particular book and think of revising that several times, right? So that would be more productive than reading more number of books, right? Postponing targets. Now this is again something that is a common habit, right? But then you have to deal with it consciously every now and then, questioning yourself how many things have been pending, and how can you, in coming time, how can you manage them, right? Self assessment, right? How and when, been more particular. See, dear friends, you cannot assess yourself, before you are very well prepared. And now, what do you mean by very well prepared? I mean to say that before you are done with your basic readings, before you are done with your, or have been given, before you have given enough time in your preparation, at least around 7 to 8 months in your preparation, you cannot judge yourself. You cannot be assessing yourself, right? So assessment is going to be through question papers. One, assessment can also be done at the time of revision, so when you are revising things. And when is it possible? Only then, when you are done with your basic sort of preparation, which generally takes 8 to 9 months, for getting hold over all those subjects and understanding the concepts. Please don't be under impression that reading once or twice, gives you capability of understanding everything. That's certainly not true. So everyone, irrespective of his or her discipline in which he or her has done, graduation, may need substantial amount of time for getting hold over the syllabus and subjects that we need to work on, right? So in my opinion, on an average, minimum 7 months to 8 months is going to be a time taken by an average student, to cover the syllabus, to get at least bare minimum grasp over the concepts and etc., right? Next important habit that you have is comparing with fellow aspirants, right? This is something that you have to do away with, right? You cannot keep comparing with your fellow aspirants. Ensure that you are comparing with yourself, right? So what have you been doing in last few months? How much have you covered, and what are you doing now? So comparison with other fellow aspirants would probably not be really very helpful, right? You can take an inspiration from those who have succeeded. I'm saying inspiration, right? I'm not saying that imitation of their plans and their idea of study and their references and their notes. I'm simply saying that what is expected from you is have your own model of preparation, right, which suits you. The only thing that you need to ensure is your model of preparation must involve all these aspects or components of prelims, right? So, and apprehension about mains. Yes, this is also very important point that generally we see students asking, or maybe aspirants asking, and the question is, I'm not very well prepared for mains, so that is actually not making me comfortable while I'm preparing for or appearing for prelims. Forget about mains for a while. Now that is the reason precisely why we are starting with this December batch, which aims at 2022 prelims. So by the end of 2021, that is December 2021, next year, you will be done with your basics. You will be done with your mains. You will be done with your, GS, which is for prelims as well as mains. So December onwards, you will be almost kind of free to work on, exclusively on prelims, and without having that apprehension about mains, right? So it is very important not to keep that apprehension. Even if you will get to know that even if you are going for second attempt or third attempt or fourth attempt, you will still carry that apprehension. The reason is mains is equally dynamic. You cannot say that, oh, because I have given 2 or 3 mains and so I need not to prepare. That's not the case, right? So mains, prelims, interview, this whole exam is full of dynamism, and so it's always better to be prepared with the basics and then like apply, or you can say use that basic understanding while you are appearing for exam, right? So friends, this is in brief about all those psychological aspects which I had to, or which I wanted to discuss with you. So the lastly, thank you very much for listening to me so patiently. Thankful to Shushruth sir. I'm thankful to e-learning department and all the viewers here, those who have patiently listened and attended the webinar. So thank you very much.
Subscribe the Unique Academy's YouTube channel and press the bell icon for latest updates and videos.